All right, well, welcome in. Today our guest has absolutely no need for an introduction. He's probably the most famous person in all of Curry County. Just kidding. So, Mayor Isaac Hodges has joined us today to discuss all things Curry.
You're pretty good at that opening.
You like that?
Yeah,
I've been practicing. It's pretty good. But I want to start with a little bit of your background.
So grew up in Curry County. Truly my entire life has been in Curry County aside from college. So a couple of years away for that. Otherwise,
Where'd you go to college?
Curry County. Well, which time?
That sounds like me.
Yeah.
I'm a professional student.
So straight out of school, I went to Lynn Benton Community College, lived up there in what they call the Quads for a couple of years. And then at the same time, was dating my wife and decided to go the marriage family route. I didn't finish college, moved back home. My dad had a logging company at the time, so that's what I did, and my wife and I got married, and then started our family from there. But yeah, prior to college, I went to County offices. I had a short stint at a Christian school. There used to be one out in Harbor at Lighthouse Church, Lighthouse Assembly of God. So I went there, I think first, second, third grade, but otherwise County offices, Azalea, and Brookings Harbor High. So yeah, I did the whole thing. And then, as far as other things, I did Boy Scouts. I did some sports. I was never really athletic, but I tried. So that was a little bit of soccer, a little bit of football, a little bit of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
I love basketball, but I was probably the worst at that. But yeah, that was it. And then when I went to college, came back, married, and then was logging with my dad till he actually stepped aside out of his business, went to work for South Coast Lumber, and I did not want to continue logging, so I went back to school and took a class to get my EMT basic, and then started an adult care home, which my dad was a logger, had a logging business. My mom was a florist. She had a flower shop in Brookings called That Special Touch, and she also had a home business, which was adult foster care, which same house I was raised in. So we actually, once I finished my EMT classes, we opened a second adult foster care home, and I ran that. And so from there, my wife and I, we married, had a child a month after our first anniversary, so right away.
Okay. All right.
So family started there, started that second adult foster care home, and did that for about 10 years.
So you had two. There were two foster care homes?
Yeah, so my mom and dad's house that I was raised in, they
Yeah.
kept that as a foster care home, adult foster care. And
Yeah.
then we opened the second one right downtown Brookings on Oak Street, and right where Oak and Railroad come together. And then I ran that one, yeah, for about a decade.
Got it.
Yeah.
Is that what propelled you into your career at the hospital?
Yeah, so after about 6-7 years of 24/7 adult foster
Yeah.
care, it is.
Yeah.
Especially, I don't know, it just was for me. I'll put it that way.
I mean, I did the youth thing.
Okay.
So I did youth residential care. So I get it. We had 400 kids, which it doesn't matter if you have 400 or if you have 6 in a foster home. It is a lot. And a lot of people don't understand you give your life to that. It's not a 9-to-5 business by far.
No.
And I always used to say to the staff when they come in, be like, we're not working with livestock, we're working with lives. And it doesn't take moments off. Their crisis is your crisis. Until you teach them how to solve and manage those crises, you're going to continue to be in that mode. And so, I know what it's like to be in that caregiving, 24/7 caregiving mode.
Yeah, and at my age, 21 to early 30s, you
Mhm.
know, being in that 24/7.
Move that over just a touch for you.
All right, being over in that 24/7 job, it was a little bit isolating as well, and rewarding, of course, too. Taking care of people that needed it, but yeah, after about 6-ish years, I realized I was not going to do that forever.
Mhm.
So went back to school, not knowing what I was going to do. And I did that locally at Southwestern Oregon Community College. They had a little annex in Brookings at the old library
Okay.
at that time. And eventually taking some odds and end classes, nursing sort of popped up. And in adult foster care, you work alongside home health hospice nurses a lot.
Mhm.
And I found interest in what they did. And so that sort of started that nursing journey, that lit that fire. At the time, nursing was a highly competitive college program. Didn't matter where you applied. So I did my prerequisites. I was very fortunate to be accepted into a nursing school my first time. I was accepted into SWAC's nursing program. At that time, it was only in Coos Bay. They didn't offer it in Brookings like they do
Okay.
now. And I also got accepted to the other one I applied at, which was over in Grants Pass. But I stuck with SWAC because they already had my transcripts. It was just
Sure.
easier. There was a you know, an outlet there in Brookings. They had even though it didn't have the nursing courses, you know, they had counselors and Peggy Gergen was, I think, the dean of that at that time.
Oh,
So
all
people
right.
I knew, so that was
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
And she actually sort of kept me going sometimes when I was like, I don't know. Because, you know, admittedly, I'm not the strongest academic, but whatever the case, I was accepted and did that. And it took a couple of years, a lot of driving back and forth between Coos Bay and Brookings for 2
Sure.
years. But in that time, I precepted at Curry General, the old hospital, and ended up being hired there right out of that RN program. I passed my NCLEX, I think a month after we graduated in June of 2009, and I started at the hospital in July of 2009.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I gotta self-disclose a few things. Number one, I'm super happy that you're like one of the first people doing this because number one, I think I so highly of you, like a mentor and a friend in this role that we do. And my first interaction with you, I'm probably sure you don't remember, but when I used to have to bring kids to the hospital for emergency holds, right? You know, we would have youth who, you know, indicated harm to self or others. We'd have to bring them in. You guys had a room that wasn't really manned, right? And it was, but it was a safe place.
Yeah.
However, when I would bring kids in when you were on duty, it was a completely different experience because you had a really natural way of talking with kids in crisis that was not. It was stern. There was expectation. We weren't going to be unsafe, but it was also there was a level of compassion, but not enablement, right? And so I always just breathed a sigh of relief when we had to bring kids in and you were on duty because I knew it was going to be a much smoother transition than sometimes other times.
That's nice to hear. Yeah, I mean, as you know, in that job, you never know what's coming through the door. You just never know, and you deal with all kinds of people and all kinds of situations. And when you're bringing a kid or adults, whoever, in a crisis situation, and you have to interact with them, it can be tough. It can be really tough for sure. But definitely always tried to have an open ear and compassion, given the fact that, you know, they're at the end of themselves a lot of times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean they're at the bottom.
Yeah.
And it's tough.
Yeah.
So one thing I didn't have written in here, but I do want to touch on, your faith is real important to you.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that at all?
Sure. Yeah, born and raised in the church as well.
Yeah?
Yeah, and down in Brookings, my parents started going well before I was born. And they sort of, before I was born, my dad did road construction, so they traveled around a lot, wherever work was. Once I was born, my two brothers are much older than me, so they were in that mode. I missed all of that. So again, here we are in Brookings, and so my parents started going to church faithfully while they were on the road, but once they got back into Brookings and planted back in there, they started attending home Bible studies that were put on through Grace Bible Church, or the pastor that was there at the time, and then of course started attending that church. And really, I've went there, my whole life. Definitely as I get older, it is much more important to me. I sort of took it for granted, definitely growing up. But yeah, even to this day now, I have the privilege of sort of being a permanent guest speaker there, if you will. I do a lot of teaching, usually the first hour on Sunday morning. Spend a lot of time, in the Word. Probably should do more, but yeah, it is the most important piece. And I find each and every year it becomes more and more important, for sure. And when you work in, like you just said, in a job that can have some decent amount of stress that comes with it, and then, as I'm sure we'll get to later, the political world, you step into that, a lot comes there as well that adds to that level of stress. There's a need, for at least for me, to have that foundation, that foundation of faith. It helps me. I wouldn't be able to do it without it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've so obviously, my daughter goes to the Christian school, and so you help out and teach there quite often. She talks about it. So that's, I knew, but I didn't really know, how involved you were. But I will say, it's, for me, when my wife watches this, she's gonna be like, what? But like, I have been, over the past like 3 or 4 years, much more interested in the Word of God and reading, and so many things that are happening in our world right now just resonate. In the only thing that makes sense to me is in the spiritual aspect of why we're going through what we're going through a lot of times.
Sure.
And I've always held on to this, to the kind of the idea, the mantra of everything happens for a reason. And it's been probably one of the statements that kept me from falling all the way to the bottom during some rough times. But that's it's good. I'm glad you talked about that, and thank you for being an instrument of faith for our youth as well.
Well, yeah, I thank you. I don't teach at the Christian school, but I had the privilege for 4 years probably, or I don't even know how many, to be invited up there to do what they call chapel. I guess it is sort of teaching, but it's a monthly opportunity to go up and have a lesson out of the Bible for kids. I think it wasn't all age groups, but it was, I think, about 7 to 8 year olds, clear up to the high schoolers that are up there. And so yeah, it was a great opportunity, and I really thought that if anything else, having that time with kids at that age to be able to relay faith, and especially how it applies to me, is just a great opportunity. And so yeah, I'm glad that it gets brought home and the kids remember that stuff, because you never know, especially when you're talking to kids, whether they're even paying attention or not.
Well, I can only speak for my daughter, and she's very much into it.
Good.
What we've done, and it's been off and on, spotty and everything, but what I'll do is I will have her teach me the Bible lesson of the day that she got in school. So she gets it reinforced, and then she gets to feel like she's imparting something on me, and it's a pretty cool relationship.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's what it, for me, that's what it really does. I think the rubber hits the road when the application to your life is clear.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really when I try to teach, if you will, or express a given passage, or maybe we're in a specific book of the Bible at the time, whatever, how that applies right now. And that I think with kids is really, really important. Not that just reading a story and
Yeah.
talking about David and Goliath or whatever story you want. How does that apply nowadays? What can I take from that really benefits me in my life, or will make an impact on me or others around me? And so I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear she brings that home, and I hope that even though we're talking some younger age groups here, and they're hearing these things, that it'll affect them in a positive way at some point in their life.
I don't see how it can.
Yeah.
So I started out going to a Catholic school,
Oh.
and I was kicked out in the second grade. I was kicked out of Catholic school in the second grade, St. Peter's in Ontario, Oregon, and it's interesting why I got kicked out. I was obviously a very pretty strong minded youth as well, but it had to do with the Pledge of Allegiance, and during the time it was Ronald Reagan, Michael Dukakis, and Jesse Jackson who were running for the presidency.
Yeah.
In '84.
Yeah.
And the teacher, we'd been doing a lesson around it, and she said, if you would vote for Ronald Reagan, stand up and do the Pledge of Allegiance. And I did it. And I was the only one who did it. And she asked me why, and I said that I didn't feel it was right that I could only choose one person to do the Pledge of Allegiance. And I found myself in public school shortly after.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So,
crazy.
So I mean, that's obviously that's not a good story in terms of those things, but and it was a one-off, I'm certain, right?
Yeah.
It's not, doesn't reflect the school itself or just that individual.
Well, it's impactful. You said Catholic, but in that case, that's especially as a kid, that's your step into faith, if you will, and that can make a negative impression for sure.
Yeah, I rooted all the way around. I was, basketball was my thing, right? So we're in storytelling mode right now, so this is good. So I lived really close to the Mormon church.
Yeah.
In proximity. It was across the fence from me. And back then we didn't have AAU leagues or year-round basketball.
Mm-hmm.
But the Mormon church did. And they all had a gym inside the church. And so so they asked me to start playing for them. And the rule was I had to go to church once a month to be able to participate on their basketball team. So I do that. And I did that for a while. But eventually, it's interesting. When I moved to Kenya in '98, that changed my entire life. That changed how I see society and humanity. It was a crazy eye opener for me to go to a place where the interactions that you have on a daily basis are so genuine because nobody has anything to gain. There's no ulterior motives in just any kind of transfer of energy or conversation. Because what I learned being removed from our cultural kind of surroundings was that it's embedded in a lot of our culture. material possessions, the need to advance, all the things that make a lot of our interactions less sincere.
Hmm.
And so, when I got back, I had a really hard transition when I got back from Kenya, and I was in college, and it was hard for me to have conversations with kids my age at the time that felt genuine, and so that led me, eventually down a path where I ended up walking to Mexico and living with the homeless and trying to find my purpose and coming back and working with kids. But and although I can't, I wouldn't say that like I was necessarily, reading the Bible, but I was definitely experiencing spirituality. Like it was very spiritual for me, what I went through and what I was going through and what I continue to go through.
Yeah, I think kids are really in tune with, and they might not know how to put their finger on it, they might not know how to define it, but they see it, and that's when you see hypocrisy, people, or when they're being manipulated, and not knowing it at the time, but later on,
Mm-hmm.
and that hurts, and that trust is broken, and so I can imagine coming from a very honest and transparent, society, it sounds like, or culture that you were in Kenya, back to where everyone's, out to maybe one up you, or
Right.
or who knows what. And I unfortunately I think that is a part of the culture, and trying to find someone that is truly just loving you for you, or doing what they're doing because it's just the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Seems to be rare, but there are those people.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I think everybody, you connect with those types of people on a daily basis. It attracts.
Yeah.
The energy in my mind, the energy attracts like energy, a lot of times. Okay, so you want to give us any hospital updates?
Oh, I would love to. So also I am, currently I am, my title is Chief Nursing Officer and Operations Officer of Curry Health Network, so that's my day job. And so when just a little background there, when I started at the hospital, I did a short stint in acute care, which is, we're a small hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't long until I was running around to the ER, and then that's where we met. And I worked in the emergency room as an ER nurse for most of my time on the front line as a nurse. But continuing to work through Curry Health, and I went back to school and did my bachelor's through OHSU, so an Oregon college for my bachelor's in nursing, and then from there just got into some of the management and furthered my degree a little bit later on, and that's where I'm at now. So I work as the CNO and COO for Curry Health. As far as what the happenings are over there, it's an amazing place to work. It has changed so much in my 2009 to now. What is that? 16, 17 years,
Mhm.
and changed for the better. I just enjoy my time there. And so to your question, it's the main thing going over there is growth. And in this climate right now, in the overall healthcare climate, that's pretty rare. And for a critical access hospital, especially as small as we are, to continue to grow and be successful, we're just really fortunate. So as part of that growth in the last year, we've added another general surgeon to our surgery line of service. So that's very important. We have a 24/7, 365 day a week surgery coverage now, and that for the whole community, that is very important. We've added a sleep study lab for people to come in and do in-house sleep studies. Again, another line of service that wasn't offered in Curry County. There was some off-site sleep labs, I guess, so I should say it's been offered to a certain extent, but not within a hospital. And then we've also then added orthopedics, and 24/7 orthopedics on call, another thing that is just fantastic to have for our community. And by the way, not just adding these lines of service, but successfully adding them. We have some amazing surgeons, and our teams are all amazing as well. So it's just been really good to see all these lines of service blossom as they have. And the orthopedics actually in this month is now moving on to full joint replacement. So that line is expanding on itself. Those are just some of what's happened. We've also been updating and adding equipment and all of those pieces, be it in our laboratory services or in our diagnostic imaging department, and continually do that.
Right.
But it's been updated, and we have some of maybe the most up-to-date equipment on the coast in some modalities. So it's pretty impressive, again, for our little hospital to do that. And then, as we moving forward, if you ever come by the hospital, you're gonna see a lot of construction going on, and that is our infusion tower, we call it. But it is expanding our infusion department to offer chemotherapy services, and that is a huge passion of quite a few of us. And cancer touches all of us. If it's not us, it's our family. If it's not our family, it's our friends. It's not our direct friend, it's a friend of a friend. And I don't know anyone that hasn't been touched by cancer. And so if you're in Curry County right now and you need chemotherapy, you're traveling, right? And those that know about chemotherapy, you don't feel that great, when you're done with it usually.
Yeah.
And so for us, it's a passion to be able to offer that here so people can be at home.
Right.
And not, if you're not going to feel good, at least you can do that at home, where you're comfortable. So yeah, we're expanding those services. That looks to be open, in the summertime, to open our doors to that. Of course, construction is construction around here, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But it's moving along. We're moving forward. And then also along with that is cancer services, so an oncology, an actual clinic with an oncologist.
Nice.
Yeah, hematology and oncology, and that's really what we're looking for. And so to offer those services, and then some adjunct therapies, of course, to go along with that. The dietitian, maybe, therapists. Just some of those things that need to go along with that. Unfortunately, we won't be able to offer radiation, but I know there's attempts being made to partner with other larger institutions that have that, so that we can make that easily available as well. So right now, that really is probably the most obvious and biggest, newest line of service we're looking forward to bringing into the health network. There's a lot of planning that's going on as well for future lines of service and what's coming down the pipe in the next 1, 2, 5, 10 years. Always looking ahead. So really exciting time. Really exciting time.
Well, obviously, in our community, right? It's probably medical care is one of the 3 pillars that make communities thrive, in my opinion. In a community that we have that is elderly, it's probably one of the most considered aspect of moving to a community, especially for a retirement community, is what do our medical services look like. And so having these expanding and flourishing options is huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
Now the question will always be, when can we have a baby?
Right.
Yeah, Curry General.
Yeah.
But
hey, I'm for it. Babies are good. Babies need to be born here, and I know that continues to be as well a topic. I don't pretend to know all the details of each side of that, but yes, absolutely, I know that what we can offer, we want to get there, and maybe so something like that might be put on that plan looking forward, and I know there's not just our community, but within the health network itself, providers and others that really look to being able to offer, those OB services.
Sure.
So yeah, who knows? Who knows what's coming down the road? But I do know this, and that is that our board and our CEO, as well as a lot of the senior leadership team of the health network, are very focused at looking forward and addressing issues. Yeah, and
I mean, everything that I've seen occur has been a positive step in growth.
Yeah.
I mean, everything from the urgent care center in Brookings to, the increased surgery options that you guys are providing and have been providing.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a forward progressing team.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes we look at each other and we, like, okay, what's on the plate for this week? Because it's a lot, and everything you add, as most people would know, there's depth to that. Informatics and IT have to be a part of that. Facilities has to be a part of that. Obviously, your providers and your clinics and how these all come together, and
That's before even getting the staff here.
Yeah. It's
which is probably a huge hurdle.
Staffing is rough, yeah, for sure. But so there's a lot to it, but it also makes the job, again, like I said, I just enjoy working there so much because that is what gives you that edification, like I'm doing something, I'm a part of something, and so that job is fulfilling, and I don't know that a lot of people can say that. I would wish for everyone to be able to say, when I go to work, it's fulfilling. And I know a lot of people can't, but I do, and I don't take that for granted. I'm very thankful for that. But yeah, it's due to everyone that works there. It is just, and I'm not up here saying we're perfect, right? I'm not. But boy, when I started working here, it was a one-story 1950s. I mean, you went in there, I don't know. I don't think it did pass the fire code. Like it was rough building. That was our hospital. And then as far as our outpatient clinics, there are varying degrees of what we did at the time, but even our setup, for working in the emergency department, for example, you may remember, but we would have to call the doctors. They weren't even always on site. That slowly changed over time, but there was a lot of risk that was involved with the way things were ran, and that has all been addressed, and where we are now, especially looking back to then, it is just vast improvement, and it continues to improve.
Yeah, I would say one of the for me a benchmark is just in my conversations and trust and etc. Right, and it's been evident that over the past at least 5 to 7 years, the level of trust in our local healthcare has gone up exponentially. Just being from an outsider's perspective, I would tell you, like the temperature gauge that I would so in Brookings, the emergency transport would ask if you want to go north or south.
Yeah.
And now I see almost nobody choosing to go south.
Sure.
And that is an indication of how far you guys have taken the hospital in a positive direction.
It was two things with the transport, right? So there's a hospital 26 miles south and a hospital 26 miles north, and there's Brookings sitting in the middle, and yeah, you chose which direction you went. You're absolutely right. I don't remember the specific statistics, but it was like over 70%, maybe even over 80. I can't remember. People of those EMS transports, those 911 calls, chose to go south into California. Various reasons, and some still do, and that choice is still there. But the opening the satellite emergency department there in Brookings, number one, it allowed for more immediate care. Our EMS agencies do a phenomenal job, and they work with, in the back of this little ambulance with all these tools and everything they can do. It just blows my mind. But within the emergency department, you're always going to have more tools, right? And some more hands as well to take care of people. So the quicker you can get there, the quicker the care to the patient,
Sure.
you know, you can have a better success rate. So to open that emergency department there is like, we don't have that 26-mile decision
Game
anymore. We're
changer.
right here. So
Yeah.
let's get them there and let's take care of them. And we almost immediately started to see some of the success of the outcomes of the patients getting that more immediate care. So there was that piece, but also the other side, the lines of service that were offered were there was just more down south, you know? And so again, that's another reason we address this. Like, we really need to be offering these lines of service, and we are bound and determined, and when I say we, the network I work for, right, to not just offer them, but to offer them the best. Because we don't just want a you name it line of service,
Right.
you know, orthopedics, whatever. We want the best orthopedics, and I think that is some of the level that at least I'm starting to see. And I know I you know, I'm going to be jaded. I work there, I get it, but I really do hear it, you know, and I am honored to be able to pass that along. And it's almost every day where I can come to one of my direct reports and say, hey, look at this comment from this patient you had. You know, pass those kudos along to your team. And quite frankly, I didn't have that opportunity in 2009 or 10 or 11 or 12.
Sure.
It was usually the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I would 100% agree. And, you know, thank you and the whole team there, and Ginny and the board for having vision.
Yeah, they do a great job.
Yeah. All right. Let's transition into some politics.
Oh, fun.
All right. Well, first, one of the things that I think, what was your motivation when you initially applied for the appointment of commissioner?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and really it's probably more of a basic answer than anyone would expect, but it's truly that old, you know, like, I felt like I could do some good. You know, that was it. There's a lot of division in the county, and I thought, you know, given some of the experience that I come with and situations that I've been in and having to deal with some division, you know, through my own life, I thought I could bring some of that as well and try to build a bridge in some of that division. But I'll tell you, the other part was I saw commissioners that were in place addressing issues that, in my opinion, and I think maybe objectively can be supported, weren't really being addressed before. And I truly believe until you look at the reality of the situation and take it for what it really is objectively, and you're honest about it, you're not going to be able to fix it. And so that's what I started to see, was some honest, like, statements about the true reality and condition of the county, and starting to have some discussions about next steps. Okay, here it is, so what are we going to do about it? I am frustrated when that doesn't happen and it becomes more of, let's keep kicking the can down the road.
Sure.
Or let's point fingers and shift accusation this way or that way. That doesn't help. It doesn't solve any situation, and you're going to end up worse off than you started. So we need to identify the issue truthfully. How bad is it really? Even though we don't want to hear it probably, but once we get that done, then we can start to talk about solutions. And that's the next hard part, right? Because that's not easy. What are we going to do? How are we going to, you know, how are we going to solve this problem? But you have to see it for what it is before you can have that discussion and then have solutions that may actually work.
Yeah.
And so I did see that. You know, I'm not here to, you know, act like I'm brown nosing you or any of the other commissioners. That isn't the point, or the commissioners at the time back then. But as Brad was stepping out, but that's what I saw. I still do, by the way. You guys are having some very difficult discussions, but they need to be had.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So on that note, back in the day, so my grandpa was very involved, and I was raised by my grandparents in kind of all things politics, right? He was at the state level and at the local level. Anyways, he had two of his best friends were both legislators. One of them was a congressman, And he told me when I was young, he said, Jay, he said, interesting thing about politics is that the longer you're in it, the more you become aligned with the entity in which you govern or represent than the people in which you represent. Meaning, the longer you're there, the more committed you become to the actual government entity, as opposed to reflecting your constituents' desires.
Sure.
Right? And I mean, you see it, I see it, it happens. The one thing that I have been noticing, or that I've noticed, is that the government, so we've talked about government like, I've heard a lot of people, government's not a business, right? Government is a service. And yes, but there's a lot of services that are businesses, right? There's a lot of service delivery models that are businesses. I mean, you offer one. But also, it could be as simple as any kind of a training, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And the thing is we can operate, because we do know relatively, fairly consistently what our revenue lines are. That's the difference. That is the difference, right? We know consistently what we are going to be bringing in for the most part in our revenues through our tax base. And so what I have found is that we have created our own excuse internally, and the excuse is budget. We don't have the budget. We don't have the budget to do this. We don't have the budget to do that. And one thing that I think right now, what we're really, really trying to hone in on and focus in on is that changing that perspective from not what we can't do, but let's focus on what we can, right? Let's stop having the excuse on why something isn't occurring, and let's be high performers across the board, because the one thing that government doesn't have generally is competition. And competition drives performance, right? And a lack of competition can often drive complacency. Mm-hmm. And so when we are trying to change the mentality, trying to move forward with a culture of this is what we have. Now, how excellent can we be with what we have? And so, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. However, the great thing is 90% of the people already have that mentality. They just need to be put in a position or put into discussion where they can have impact in the outcome.
Yeah.
Advancing, right? So that's kind of a not a new, but I mean it's a direction and a goal. I think with intention that we are working to move forward with.
Sure.
But talking about, you're the mayor of Brookings. Brookings has been in my opinion, a very high performing local government. I think you guys have an incredible team that has vision as well, and has made some great strides in the city of Brookings.
Yeah, well, I mean, thank you for that. I think, one of the pieces that the county, continues to struggle with a little bit, in my opinion, and the city of Brookings as well, although we've made some strides in the right direction, is the identity piece, right? Like, you're talking about do those things that we do, what we do have, do that good, and stand out. And so I think that continues to be a piece that we've really got to lock in for the county. And again, another reason that I was willing to step in, and that's what is our identity, and is it continuing to be logging and fishing and tourism,
right?
And those pieces, and in that case, I think that's it. That's where we're at. Then we really need to. That's where our focus is then, and how do we make the most out of that? And I think, you know, making that clear, and that way everyone has the same direction they drive in, or if it's some other direction, but as long as we're all aligned,
Yeah.
that's very beneficial. And that whether it's a county or an organization, why are we here and where are we going, what's going on, you know, and as a city of Brookings as well, you know, we've spent time looking at, you know, our identity. Who are we? What do we do? You know, and you know, it sounds somewhat simple, but it means a lot.
Sure.
You know, and we're not going to be, unless something drastically changed, a destination for a large industry to come in and start making widgets or whatever.
Right.
You know, our highways slide into the ocean. We don't have a huge commercial airport. Our docks can't receive, you know, huge cargo liners.
Right.
You know, our ports.
Google is not moving here.
Yeah. So we know that, and
Right.
sometimes finding your identity is checking those things off. Like, okay, we know we're not, so here's what's left. But whatever that is, you know, that gets us all moving in the right direction. And of course, you know, I talk about logging, I talk about fishing, and I talk about tourism, but there's also entrepreneurship here. Absolutely, and usually it sort of floats on one of those. Restaurants, of course, they succeed off of tourism, but that's also entrepreneurial. And we have like college, you know, and so making the most off of that, and so there are other things. I don't mean to oversimplify it, but we definitely, you know, need to have that identity. And I think sometimes that without that, people sort of just float around in the way it's always been done.
Sure.
And the world changes around them and they get left behind.
Sure.
And I think there's some of that. But yeah, again, you got to address the issues and then at the same time have those goals. It's a whole package. But I believe you put that package together, you can address these issues and be successful as well as grow.
Right.
Yeah, and we have, I mean, when you talk about sort of how you look at things and not always looking at what you don't have but what you do, you just walk outside. I mean, we literally live in the most beautiful area in the world.
It's paradise.
It is.
Yeah.
And so, you know,
100%.
we have so much to offer just when you walk outside.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes even I think we forget that because we're surrounded by it all the time. You know, it's like I can come to work and be all, you know, walking on my bottom lip, and then, you know, walk by a tourist who's got a big smile on their face because, you know, I'm so used to it, I don't even notice the beauty around me anymore. But they see it for the first time, and they're willing to, you know, write home about it.
They found a sand dollar.
Yeah.
Doing bananas.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I will never forget. So I grew up in Eastern Oregon, right? And our beach, if you will, when we went to the beach, was always Seaside or Lincoln City, right? I never even been to Curry County, never even been to Brookings until I moved here and got here with a U-Haul van, and our the place that we had was in Dawson, right? So I got off the U-Haul van and I walked down to the beach at Harris Beach, and I was blown away. I was like, this is so. It's so rugged and dramatic, like with the you know, with the sea stacks and stuff, and it was October, and it was like 70 degrees. Yeah. And I'm like, this isn't the Oregon coast. This isn't real. Like
I'm in Hawaii.
You're right. This
with
is
a better beach. Yeah.
I was like, my family, they did us wrong. We were going too far north. But yeah, we do have an incredible amount to offer.
Yeah, we do, and to be a part of that, as a, you know, the original question, you know, what drove me to throw my name in the ring for commissioner, that was truly it. Was just, you know, to summarize it and to just simplify what I'm trying to say is just to be a part of representing that beauty that we have here, and by the way, the amazing community we have. Yeah, I mean, we really do. We sit back and you look at what we do have. I mean, there's a lot of gratitude to be had.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
All right, well, you have 3 days left as your time as mayor, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Monday.
So a little bit of reflection on that. So, you know, tell us how your time as mayor has been. How has that been?
It's been an amazing opportunity, and it has been a true learning experience. Yeah. You know, I've said this many times, I'll say it again, I never in my life would have ever envisioned mayor being my title at all. So it was never anything I ever wanted, like had planned. It wasn't a want of mine or a desire of mine. But after sort of the chain of events that eventually ended with me becoming mayor, I'm very grateful, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to have had this pretty much 2 years as mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you achieved a lot, and also, I think there was a big storm,
Yeah.
and I think that you navigated some stability during that storm. It could have gotten a lot worse than it was, but I think with your resolute kind of attitude about we're going to move forward, and we're going to move forward together, and it may not look the same as it did, but we're still going to move forward, really reassured a lot of people that were concerned, that they were, uneasy, if you will. And so I don't know if you've taken a moment to recognize that at all, but just giving you my reflection, it definitely was, it was real and tangible, and I could see it. A lot of my friends, close friends, are at the city of Brookings, and we have these conversations, and it's a real thing.
Well, I appreciate that, but I would say the city, the city workers, and I don't know a better way to put that, but I'm talking everyone from the volunteers at the visitor center to the fire department to the paid employees, in the front desk, the water department, parks works, I'm probably gonna miss a bunch of them, so I won't try to name them all. Police as well. They're the ones that held it all together.
Sure.
They're the ones. There was a lot going on. But you talk about stepping up. The police chief stepped up and sort of carried a dual role. And of course, when he stepped up, his lieutenant had to step up, and everyone in the department had to step up. And that's just one piece. It's also the same in public works and in finances and in the fire department. So all the credit and all the kudos of that city, really maintaining through the fire that sort of come out of that goes to them. They really did a good job, and the teams all stuck together. And the other part of that as well is we had a transition from one city manager to another, and that's always a big thing. That's like an organization going from one CEO to another, and
right.
But yet the department leaders held together and really helped with that transition as well. And so it is something that, well, I appreciate your words, and I thank you for that. I mean, the credit all goes to them. The credit is the amazing job that the leadership on the front line of the entire city did during that time. Mm-hmm. And the council as well. I got originally brought in as a counselor and as an appointee for Councilor Alcorn, who became a commissioner,
right,
and his spot was open. And so I learned a ton from the council of that time and the mayor of that time, and I am eternally grateful for that. And then as things happen and the recall and all of that, then we have this new council and new faces, and I still eternally grateful for them. I've learned a lot, and so the same kudos as well to all of them. And that's the other reason you asked about throwing my hat in for commissioner, and even now as I'm stepping aside as mayor, that's another reason I don't feel concerned about what's going to happen when I do step out, because there is just that amazing city culture already there.
Right.
It doesn't need me. It doesn't exist because of me. And by the way, whoever takes that mayor seat is going to do a better job than I ever did. I mean, I did as good a job as I can, but I know any of the other counselors and as that transition happens, whoever the new faces comes up there will do a phenomenal job as well.
So on that note, what piece of advice would you give in the incoming mayor?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this. On Monday I want to say something.
Sure.
As I step out, and we'll see who that is, but that steps in. But like I just said, I think any of them will do a phenomenal job, and I would just maybe as one piece of advice that I think is already possessed, right? But that I would recommend to continue to grow is just always be curious. Like, just continue to be curious. I've found that that's been one of the key things that's helped me from sometimes getting in like a triangulation discussion, and I feel like things are sort of I'm getting manipulated a little bit and stuff, and it's just you can't really put your finger on it sometimes.
Right.
But you're like, wait, this doesn't sound exactly like what I thought. Just get curious, start asking questions then, and really find out what's going on. The title of mayor, with it comes, some, probably not a whole lot. The city of Brookings is fairly small, but some responsibility as far as what you say and how you say what you do. So you don't want to say something too offhand or without knowing the whole story. So just be curious, and really take that time to find things out. Get both sides of the story, or however many sides there is to it, before you say something about it.
I think we can all take that advice for sure.
Absolutely.
That's great advice. All right, what do you foresee as our biggest issues in Curry County going into 2026?
Division. A lot of division going on. I know it's sort of a broad statement, but and it's nationwide, right?
Sure.
But Curry County is not exempt from that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we're facing it on even a micro level, just obviously just talking about like the county government and the situations that have occurred here, with the commissioners and the sheriff, and yes, that it becomes difficult to talk about progress when you have this giant elephant in the room.
Yeah.
It requires all of us in the same room having conversations to discuss how best to move forward. And and I'm hopeful that we get there this year, that we'll find common ground, that we'll it's interesting when I talked about budget earlier, a lot of this division was not prevalent until we had to make some difficult choices and cut budget.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've explained this very well, but our severe 31% of our budget was built on a false floor, right? It was built on one-time funds they ran out. We're the ones got caught, and when the music stops, we were the one without a chair.
Yeah.
And so it made everything really difficult. And I think I take an ownership of this in about a month ago, in a video that I did where I basically said, look, I failed to communicate the severity of the scenario that we were in, because if there were people within the county that didn't believe that we were actually in the financial situation that we were in, that's on me. That I didn't communicate that clearly. I didn't communicate that in a manner that was understood, and so I have to go back and really examine how that communication really came across, and I totally own it, and I understand, because when I look back, as soon as I recognized it, I went into hyper mode for an answer. And the answer that I had come up with was the levy, right? So all of my efforts went from communicating what had occurred to what needs to happen. And I think in that transition, I failed a lot of people. I failed some of our own team. I failed some of the community because I didn't translate exactly how we got to where we did financially, and that's not a responsibility that you know I could say, well, there's others who could have done. No, the others couldn't have done it as well because I understood it better, right? Because I come in being a former department head, and so I knew what it looked like, and I knew what I was walking into, and the others didn't have that perspective. And so it was on me to be able to bridge the gap, number one, between the other department heads and electeds who I'd worked with in the past, who had high levels of trust with, and to communicate exactly how we got to where we did and the severity of it and how it was going to impact us all. And I knew that I failed that when we got to the budget committee and we had individuals we had asked, hey, provide us a presentation with what it looks like if 31% of your budget is removed. What kind of services is the community looking at? And when there were individuals who didn't even participate in that portion, that's when I knew that I had failed in communicating the severity of it, because I think some of them didn't believe that we were actually in the financial situation that we were in. And I hear some of that too in public comments. You know, it's almost like we created the financial crisis by cutting budget, and it's like, no, we were just responding to the situation that was in front of us that was accelerated by that ransomware attack.
Yeah.
You know, so I can see that division, and I think.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I think, you know, ownership is huge, and if you're going to lead anywhere, you need to own your failures, own your shortcomings. No one's perfect, and you know, I don't know whether, you know, in what you're saying, I appreciate that. I don't know to that extent from my own perspective where you came up short in what you're saying, but I do know. At the end of the day, again, goes back to what I was talking about in seeking to be a part of the solution and be a commissioner, is to, you know, get that reality out there. I think, you know, again, that's where you got to start. The current situation where it really stands. And if you have 31% of your budget that's on a false floor, as you put it, hey, county, this is all of us, you need to know. What I think, though, when it comes to division, what I think all of us need to do as citizens of Curry County, right, is we need to, you know, start to invest, if we haven't been, in really understanding the situation ourselves, and not just going off of somebody that we think we like's opinion about the given situation, or what they're saying because, you know, you feel like maybe they know more and I've met this person before and I like them better or whatever. You know, we got to get past that. Or it's the way it's always been done, it's always worked, let's keep doing it. No, it hasn't always worked, and now we're addressing it, so we got to get past that. You know, one of the easiest things to do is to sit back and wait for somebody else to come up with a solution and then knock it down.
Sure.
Any of us can do that.
Right.
That is not a specialty. Like that isn't a special talent of anyone, although some people are really good at it.
Right.
It's like some people are really good at offending, and some people are really good at getting offended. You know, and when they get together, boy, it's not real good. But we got to get past that, and we've got to get to the point of, you know, again, here's where we're at. This is the situation. Now, here's my proposal, levy, whatever. Okay, you see a lot of issues. That's fine. You know, it's up for discussion. There's debate to be had. That is cool, but as much as you want to knock something down, and you can poke holes in it, and you should, what is your solution? Where are you coming out? Now that's where the rubber starts to hit the road again, right? That's like, okay, Now I'm putting my neck out a little bit.
Mhm.
Well, because someone might knock it down, you know, and so I see that. I know there are some people that just also wake up to cause issues and that they're not satisfied till they think they've made somebody else's day hell. So, and you'll never be able to work with those people. But for most people, get past just, you know, if you are just going off of others' opinions and really look into it for yourself and try to bring some solutions instead of just poking holes. That will be helpful. I know in discussions with you, I remember even clear back with Commissioner Alcorn, he'd say it on, I think, almost every meeting. My door's open, my phone's available, I will answer, like, I want to hear from you guys. But, you know, unfortunately, a lot of it was just hearing about the bad ideas or the holes in the ideas they gave without really truly other ideas coming in. And as citizens of the county, we need to do that. We need to give those ideas and be a part of the solution. I know that the commissioners are willing. I know from the mayor's bench, if you will, I is the same way, open to solutions. And the city councilors at Brookings are open to those your vision of what a solution of any given scenario may be. And when we start working together to those solutions, guess what? That division starts to dissolve.
Yep.
But if we continue to just poke holes, pretty soon people quit communicating because they don't want to get made fun of or they don't want their solution that they propose to get kicked around too much. And yeah, the outcome is division, and we need unity. And that's why I truly do think division is our biggest problem. And it's not just in this coming year; it's been there, and it will probably continue. And so we need to figure that out. We need to get past that. I look sometimes on some of the statements of social media against the commissioners, and you know whatever, and I see the same 4 or 5 people, but yet it seems to make a loud noise. And so again, get past somebody else's opinion. Get past just jumping on the train. Get into learning for yourself and seeing what the issue, and then offering some sort of solutions. And then I think we can all start to truly work together and get united again.
Well, I'm glad you said that. I will say that one aspect of Curry government, city and county, ports, etc., that I have seen improve is the communication between those entities. It was very, very siloed. You know, it was like, you know, the county didn't mess with the city, didn't cooperate, or you know, having a dialogue with the city, you know, or even cooperation in terms of maybe an initiative. And now I feel like we have much better communication with the cities, and so those silos are being broken down. We definitely have some internal work to do. I mean, that's evident. That's
Sure.
Obvious, and we'll continue to knock those things out and try to get past personal issues so that we can really dive into like the communal ones.
Yeah. I think there's unfortunately been, you bring up the earlier anyways, the sheriff and some of the things that are happening there. And I see the litigation that unfortunately had to take place, and then the outcome of the litigation with the judge. But that's another great example. I see what was there was like 8 rulings that, and I might be messing this up a little bit, I apologize, this is the way I read it. And there was like one ruling on there where the judge sort of stated, and it was about public meetings, and that the sheriff didn't need to attend the public meetings, or the commissioners couldn't really enforce that. And then there was all these other rulings, which really, I think were very aligned with what should be, and definitely, I think supported what the commissioners were trying to get at, and I'm glad for that. But I couldn't believe when I would read some of the statements about this, that there was, and I think there was even an article written that made it sound like there was a win, if you will, by the sheriff, and the fact that he didn't have to attend public meetings or couldn't be made to him. I'm just like, I hope people see past that. Like, that's some of that fuel that's causing the division there. Like, it's a win-loss thing. No, as a county, we're all losing because this has to go to litigation because the communication's sucking. And be quite honest, who wins when your public official that you elect isn't attending public meetings? Whether they can be forced to or not, they should. I mean, part of leadership is being present. Like, that's a big part of it. And I'm not here to harp on, anyway, I'm just trying to say that's a good example, as you bring it up, of that manipulation that goes on, and a few people can twist something as so obvious as that, where the commissioners are really truly trying to show, hey, now we see, even supported by a court, where the lines are, so let's move ahead, and the same small group of people using that and twisting it so much to make it look like a win for an elected official, when it truly wasn't a win for anybody.
Definitely not the
No.
community.
No.
You know, and
And,
those-
So that's an example of that fuel to that division, and why I say look into it for yourself. Really look into these things. Don't just trust what you see or someone that you've met before and you really like, and so when they say something, it must be true. Like, look into it for yourself. I do truly think, on the big picture, again, that the only reason that even had to go to litigation and had to have rulings was because of the fact that there was so much division, that the communication had broken down between the commissioners and the sheriff, that we had to have this third party ruling, and that isn't a win.
No.
No.
No, nothing flourishes when there is no communication. Communication drives every division there is. In terms of, if there's a lack of it, it ends in wars, it ends in divorce,
Sure.
it ends in broken friendships. And there's no positive ending that occurs when communication is severed. And so we definitely have to be intentional about getting back getting lines of communication moving forward.
Yeah, you can see it expressed in some of the comments, and I'm bring up social media. I really try not to get on too much, but when I do and really look at those things, you do see that. You see emotions, you see bitterness. Quite honestly, sometimes I feel like I see hatred, and so we need to come back to a time of true debate and expectations.
Sure.
And those expectations, quite honestly, should be of all of our elected officials, that they can get in the same room and discuss policy for all of us to be able to see it. And truly see where each other stands. And then, yeah, you gotta make some difficult decisions, right? But at least you have all the people in the room so you can get the information you need. Some of the stuff is so hard to figure out and even make a decision on because you don't even have all the information.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a point of emphasis, and a personal goal of mine in 2026 is, you're right. We have to really focus in on improving our lines of communication, having the hard discussions, because those are going to result in the best decisions. And when you're only provided one subset of information, you can only make a decision off that information, off that subset. You're inevitably going to not make the best decisions because you don't have all the information.
And those decisions being made at this level affect us as a county. So again, we should all be vested
Sure.
in this, and we should all have expectations of our commissioners, of all of our elected officials, to give the data needed to make the right decisions, and also to show up
Mm-hmm.
across the board. I'm not centering on any one person, and that goes in any organization. You go into an organization where no one sees the leader. I'd probably bet that it's not doing real well.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And more than that, there's not a lot of information out there to be had. So then automatically people are going to start to be suspicious because it's not transparent. And so as a county, I think all of us should be really pushing for transparency, for open, like you said, open lines of communication, and then all the information so that we can make the best decisions for our county that can be made, for sure.
That's how we have to be successful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so as we start to wrap up here, what are you most proud of as your time as mayor?
I mean, I am proud, and I said this earlier, but I am proud of the way that the city of Brookings has maintained through so many fires. Through so many difficult times in the last 4 years, 3 years, 4 years. That's what I'm proud of. You know, I'm not proud of any, like, personally, anything. I didn't do anything that was amazing in any way. I was part of some difficult situations that occurred, and I hope I did my best to guide through that. But again, those frontline workers, clear to the leaders and directors of the city departments, they held it together and did a great job. And so I'm proud of all of them, really. And I am proud of the council and what they are, and the city manager that we have right now is doing a great job. So if there's any pride I have, it's I'm proud of all of them. I'm proud to be a part of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say, okay, so the humility is always, it's awesome, and it's one of the things I admire about you. I will say that with some level of certainty, because I am very good friends with a lot of those individuals, right? We talk a lot. But your presence, your steadfast, your kind of resolute confidence really helped the anxiety levels of those individuals to continue to focus on progress instead of focusing on the uncertainties that you were all facing. And so don't discount that, because it was a big deal. And I'm sure a lot of them have probably already reached out to you to thank you for all of that, but if not, I'm doing it on some of their behalf.
I appreciate it.
Yes. Okay. Final thoughts.
Oh boy. Said a lot already. I don't know. I mean, final thoughts. I would, again, just maybe continue off of the banter we've already had on, just really people getting involved. In your communities, in your city, in your county, in your state, in your nation, get involved and think for yourself. Be curious. Really, get the information that's out there and make a really informed decision. Don't just react off of emotions. Don't just react off of somebody else's opinion.
Social media posts.
Yeah, and all of those things. I really think when I talk about division, I think that's one of the biggest causes of division right now is social media. It's a great tool, don't get me wrong, and I get sucked into it just as much as anybody else, but there's so many things I've run across where I know sort of the backside of it, and the way that it is displayed makes it look 180 degrees from the truth. So again, it's sometimes really hard to find the truth, but if you look hard enough, I think you can usually get it. Sure. And don't fall for that. And that leads to that unity part. Try to continue to work with your neighbor, continue to be there for each other, support each other. We need to really not lose sight of the fact that none of us are better than anyone else. And we're here for each other, and be here for each other. Yeah, that would be probably my biggest thing. The other piece too, maybe I should, and it goes along with that a little bit, is like, when we look at solutions, look at what's already been done, and if it hasn't worked, maybe don't keep pushing it. That's one of the things that's another part. I know when you asked about some of our biggest difficulties coming up in 2026, homelessness is always a big thing, that is on our minds, especially in the state of Oregon. It is a difficult issue to address, and it is one of those things that is very easily emotional, right? And something I just said, right? Like, you aren't better than your neighbor. You're not better than anyone else. So, that gets used and twisted a little bit to say then, we need to, throw more money at homelessness because, you're not better than them. They're not, they need to be brought up to your level type of a thing, whatever that may be. But how much money have we thrown at it with these same tactics? And it's getting worse. That's a clue to say, well, then that's not working.
Right.
And when we have some of these advocates, and some advocates are phenomenal, but anything that comes in under the guise of advocacy to solve or at least help a situation and it gets dramatically worse, then it's not working.
Right.
And we need to go another route. So again, it's more of a common sense statement, but really truly see something for what it is. Again, instead of just being emotional or instead of just throwing more money at it and saying, well, we did something.
Sure. Well, and that comes on the cusp of this, town hall that we're about to have later this month to discuss this topic.
Yeah.
And it is. Sometimes I think we overcomplicate it as well. And between advocacy groups and government agencies and partners and law enforcement and everybody who's involved. I think a lot of times it doesn't have to be as complicated as it needs to be. I have a lot of opinions on this, and it would take another hour. But I hope you can make it to that town hall.
Well, unfortunately, I think it's a time when I'm going to be out of town, but we'll see. If I'm in town, I definitely will. Okay, for sure. Good. Yeah, that goes back to that manipulation thing too a little bit as well, right? I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and it was, looking at regulations. Mm-hmm. Right? Who doesn't think we shouldn't have regulations, right? I mean, I want my food regulated. I don't want it to give me botulism or something, right? I want my medicine regulated. I want it to be effective. I want it to work. So again, that's a good thing, right? It sounds like a good thing, but when you really look into it, sometimes you even see that gets turned bad, and you have large corporations that push regulation, not because they really want you to be safer, but because they know the other competition can't afford it. Right. And if they can push them out by over-regulating, they get the monopoly. And then guess what? They even get to sort of drive what regulations go forward and maybe not even have to meet their own regulations. So I use that again as an example of, look a little bit deeper into it. There's a lot of manipulation and things that goes on for things that just sound really good. Yeah. And you just want to support because of course that's a good thing, right? But the reality of it is, maybe it's not. And we just, in this day and age, we just, we've got to get smart about those things. Sure. Yeah.
Well, it's been a long, thank you for taking time out of your day to come do this. I really appreciate it. This whole thing that I'm trying to work on to get information out to people in a setting, like this. I hope it's received well. I hope that people can have a different understanding of our local leadership and what's going on and kind of direction for the county and et cetera through different conversations that we have. So thank you.
No, this is great. I think this is phenomenal, and I look forward to the conversation you've already had. I think with another person and that you're going to have. It's going to be great. I've discussed this before, even at the city level. Again, social media can be a great tool, and we pick on it a lot and beat it up a little bit. But also for things like this, to get the information out, we should be utilizing that. Sure, for sure. That was one of the areas. I feel like I fell short in the mayor, the position that maybe we could have done had maybe the city manager and myself or some of the other department leaders have something similar to this. So I really do, think this is a tremendous opportunity for you guys. So I'm glad you're doing it.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
All right, we'll wrap this up. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks, sir. Thank you.